All right, so welcome back to the part 2 of this class. Last time we started with this design. We were able to arrange the content for the mobile design, which is what I have here. So let me switch to mobile view so that we can see this thing correctly. So we have this in, and as you can see, it's not looking like what we designed because the font is not loading. So that's why it's going back to these default fonts. But let me reload. Maybe this one will fix this stuff because the network. Yeah, so now it's back. So we have the correct text showing on the screen here. So we're able to do this thing last week, but today we need to make sure that the site is responsive, because right now taking this into desktop or a bigger screen, you see that it's not looking nice at all. And why is it not looking nice? Because we don't really have the desktop design. So the design we have right now is placing the content on top of each other, but once we get to a bigger screen, we want to place them side by side. So how can you talk to your design to do different stuff based on the user screen there? Then you can use what I mentioned last time, which is a media query. So in CSS, we have something known as media query, which is what you can use to condition the styling of your CSS there. So this stuff, I want you to only do it when you're on a particular screen. So when your screen is between this range, that's when I want you to change the colors to red, or that's when I want the text to go to the left, or that's when I want the text to be big, and so forth like that, depending on what you want to do there. So, and how do you use media query? So to use media query, you just need to start with this. Let me change my keyboard. Why is this in UK? Supposed to be US. Like that. So here now we have this art rule. So as you can see the name, they are known as art rule. And we have a lot of art rules that you can use in CSS, as you can see a lot of them. But the one we want to use right now is known as media. So this media is what you can use to apply your style based on the media that the user is using to view your site. And we have two major type of media there like that. So we have the screen, which is what you are seeing right now here. So this is the media for screen, which is what the user will be using to view your site. But apart from the view there, we have the print media, which is what you are going to see anytime you want to print something from the site. So if I press Ctrl P here, as you can see, this thing is going to bring another view. So this another view that we have here is what we call the print media. But we're not going to be focusing on this print media because we don't care about the printing part. What we care about is a view. As you can see, look at the way the thing is looking like on the printing media there. So if you want to apply some style when the stuff is in this printing mode, then you can apply your style by using the media of print. So anytime you mention this media print here, what you are saying is that whatever you want to do here, it will only happen when you want to print your document. And what are you going to be doing here? Everything you have been doing at the top here, that's the same thing that you are going to be doing down here. But you are conditioning your style now. You are saying that whatever you want to do under this curly brace, it will only happen when you are in print mode. For example, here now, we can select our body and again change the background color that is here. Before, the background color that is on the body is this color here. So if I scroll up, as you can see on the body, we have this background of cream. But what I want to say here is that, okay, when we are not dealing with anything like screen, or when we're in this media, which is print, I want to change the background color to be red. Before I change the color, so going back to the screen, as you can see, it's using the same background that I use, because when you apply your style and you don't mention media query, it will apply to all of them. But once you want to do something based on a query there like that, you can specify the type of the query by mentioning screen, which is one that is going to happen when you are not in print mode. And when you press print here like that, it means whatever you are doing here, it will only happen when you are in print mode. And once I save this code now and go back to the page and reload everything. So go back to the page. As you can see, nothing is happening here. Our background is not changing at all because we are not dealing with that mode. But if I press Ctrl P again and go back to that place there like that, we should have a background. I don't know why it is taking time. What's wrong with this system? So we should have the background. Can you see now? The background is now red. On the main page, the background is not red. But on the print page, the background is red. Why? Because here now, I specify where it's going to apply this my CSS. Everything what I'll be doing here, it doesn't care about the print, whether you're in print, whether you're in screen, or whether you add another, it doesn't care. It will apply it for all the media there. The same thing here too. Instead of me using print, I can use screen. And once this thing is saved and go back to the page, you are going to see that the background is now showing as red. But if I enter the print, you are not going to see the background as red because it will not use that, because I did not mention this background for the print media. The background will only happen when you're on the screen, which means you are not. Can you see now? So that background is no more red here, but it's red when you are viewing the site. So this is what we call the screen, and that printing is another media on its own like that. Or if you want to apply it to all of them, you can just say all like that, or you even remove that the step and apply other condition. When you say all, it's just as if you are not even typing this in at all, because it means it will apply to all the media that you have there like that. But it's not only the media type, because this is what we call media type, which might not. So this is what we call media type, which is what I just explained now. So under the type, under the media type, we have the screen, and at the same time we have the print, or you can mention all like that. So which means it will apply to all of them like that. So we have this type. Apart from type, you can actually add some other condition here too, which is what we need today. So apart from the type, you can add other condition here that this thing can use here. And what are the conditions that you can use here? So you can use the and condition, or you can use the all condition. And inside this your condition, you specify whatever condition you want this thing to be based on there like that. For example, here now, I can just specify the condition to be weight of when the weight like this, or I can just say mean. So let me use the mean weight so that it will be better, is greater than 500. So as you can see here, what we are doing here is that this thing will only happen when the width of the screen is greater or equals to this 500 pixels. So now I'm not using the type of screen again. I don't care whether it is screen or it is print. What I care about is the screen width that you are using. So if your width of the browser that you are using to view this site is greater or equals to 500, then the body is going to be this color red. But if it is below 500, then it's not going to apply anything that is here. So this is a condition here. We are saying that here we want something to happen, which is this stuff that we have under it. But it will only happen when we have a minimum width of 500 pixels. And you know what is minimum width means? It means that this thing have to be 500 and above. And that's the only time the background is going to be red on the body. So if I go back to the page now, as you can see, the body is red because this width right now is bigger than 500. But if I reduce my screen, as you can see now, that background is no more there, because the only time it will be there is when the stuff enter 500. As you can see, it's adding it or removing it based on whether the screen has entered 500. Let me increase the value so that it can show more. So let me use 1000 like this. So going back to the page, you see that it's not showing. So until the body or until the screen enter 1000, that's when it's going to change to red. When it's not 1000, then you are not going to see any red at all like that. Can you see now? So it's when it enter 1000, that's when it turn to red, because that's the only time it's going to apply the CSS that we have here. So we are applying on a media, but I did not specify the type. If you don't specify the type, then it's going to be all. So which means it will happen on print and it still happen on the screen. And I don't care about the print right now. Anytime I use this thing, I will just assume that it is screen or it is for all of them like that. But the major thing we are going to be working on is this extra condition that you always apply here. And you can add other multiple conditions there by joining them with and like that. So this is one condition again this is another condition. So here now I'm going to have the max width of 3000 pixels. So the only time is going to apply this or is going to see this your selector and apply this property here is when the screen is greater or equals to 1000 and is less or equals to 3000. This is our condition here. So the only time to do what we have here is when the screen is above or equals to this value and it is below or equals to this value. And if you still want to add other condition, you can continue like that and you add multiple conditions based on what you are trying to target. But we are not going to be adding much condition like this because the way we are going to be targeting all this in, we are going to be following a standard number or a standard screen that are already set up there or that almost all the device used to follow. So we are not going to be doing too much of the and like this. And again, don't forget, whatever properties you want to check, you can always do them here. But majorly, what we normally do is to check the width or to check the orientation of the screen, whether the user is in portrait mode or is in landscape mode. So you can emulate this thing by entering the developer mode. So in order for you to be able to emulate that, you need to enter the developer mode. And as you can see here, we have this rotate that you can use to emulate whether your screen is in horizontal or is going to be portrait. So this is where you can emulate your screen, just like on your phone that it can rotate. So here too, you can emulate that so that you see how things look like when it is in portrait and when it is landscape. For example, now this screen, this is a mobile screen. So I can take it to the landscape of it so that I will see how this thing is going to look like when they are in landscape mode like that. And you can target this particular stuff here like that by specifying the orientation. So here you can talk about the orientation like that, and from there you can specify whether it is going to be portrait or is going to be landscape like that. So which means here it will only apply this thing when your screen is in landscape. So the only time it will change the color to red is when we are in landscape like that. So if I'm not in landscape, nothing will happen. But once I enter the landscape as orientation, then this one is going to change the background to red like that. Apart from this orientation too, you can check like the height. So when the height matches a particular height, you want to do something. So when the height is 500, not less, not more. You know, when you say height is this value, exact value. But you know, if you want to include the range, then you can do min or you can do max. So max means that when the height is less or equals to 500, that's when the red color is going to come outside. But if the height is not, as you can see now, it's showing red. But once I increase this thing, can you see now, since the height is now more than 500, then it will not work again. The same thing too, we can reverse it. Instead of max, it's going to be min. So which means here now, as long as you have a height that is greater or equals to 500, then this thing will always show red color as background like that. But once it's less, as you can see, it will not work again. And this is what we are going to be using to be able to detect whether a user is using a particular screen or not. So this is what we are going to be using to apply or to change our design based on the width, because you know the width determines whatever the size of the device that the user is using. There is only here on the phone and your screen size is not going to be this 1024. It's not possible that your mobile phone will not be having this big screen. So once you have this screen, we already know that you're in the laptop, because this is the screen that is meant for small laptop. And all this thing, we have some of this, all the devices that we have out there, all of them, they come with some of the screen that you can target there, because it's not just one value that you have to target. You have to target a range of value. And as you can see from here, these are different screen like this iPhone. Now if you look at the value, you see that it is 375 for iPhone SE. But if I change it now to iPhone XR, as you can see, this one now is down 414 like that. But they are in a range. So 375 is not really that far from this 417, because all of them are still mobile. It's just a little bit bigger than that iPhone SE. The same thing too if I switch to 14 Pro Max, as you can see, that one is 430, while the 12 is 390. So they are not far. So they are a range of value, and that's what we used to do. We target a range of a screen, not that you have to be targeting them one by one. So okay, you target SE separately, you target SR separately, you target pixels separately, and so forth like that. No, we don't do it like that. What we do is that we look for the range of device, then we target them together because they are not far from each other. So, and as you can see from here, these are some of the common screen size that you always see a range. So we have the small phone, which is like this 320. So this 320 is a small screen like that, but it's still mobile phone there like that. All right, so as you can see, all these gadgets that you're going to be seeing out there, they fall within a particular range of screen size, and your browser have all these in all the common one like that. And as you can see, what I showed you before, iPhone SE is 375 as the weight of it. iPhone S out, that one is 414. Then 12 is 390. So it's not just that this thing will stay on one value. So we are going to be targeting a range of value. So when you're talking about laptop now, laptop have a range of screen size that you are going to see there. When you're talking about tablet has a screen target there like that. And this is the common value that you are going to be seeing there like that. For example here, when you're talking about mobile, so we always assume anything within this range, they are mobile screen. So anything within this range, they are mobile phone, which is 0 to 767 like this pixels. So any screen that is from 0 all the way to this, we always assume that they are mobile like that. But we have different mobile. It can be small mobile, it can be medium mobile, and it can be large mobile. But everything from this 0 to 767 here, we always assume that they are small screen. So it means if they are targeting a mobile and your design is not working based on mobile first, and you are starting with desktop. So once you want to move to mobile, this is the common screen that you are going to target. So it's going to be a range from this 767 downward. All of them, we assume that it is mobile. And when you're talking about tablet, so that one is on 768 all the way to 1023 like these pixels. So this is what we call tablet. So tablet screen are always in this range. Not that it will stay at this value. It's always in this range, depending on the device that the user is using and the range of the tablet that they are using. We have the small tablet, we have the medium tablet, and we have the large tablet. But almost all of the tablets always fall in this range, where you see this 768 pixels all the way to 1023 pixels like this. And when you're not talking about desktop, those one started with 1024 all the way to the above like that. So this is a desktop like that, where you see your laptop, you see every other screen that are bigger there like that. And that's the reason why you see all this stuff at the top here, so that you can quickly switch between each one of them like that. So this is just a prevent value that you can use and use yourself. If you want to change it, you can actually specify the value. But this thing have some of this common screen already that you can use. So anytime I just want to do a design for like tablet now, I can just quickly click on this one and it's going to show the tablet for me. But that doesn't mean this is how all the tablets are going to look like, because there are some tablets that are more than the 768. For example here now, if I expand this thing, as you can see, there is this iPad here like that, which is a tablet, but it comes with different variant. As you can see, iPad mini, and as you can see there is 768. But here there is iPad Pro, and you can see that it gets to a bigger screen, and at the same time too, we have this iPad here, which is this 820. But they are within that range of 768 to 1024. So all tablets follow that range. The same thing too for the mobile. If you look at all this mobile screen now, they are within the range of that 767. None of them will go past that. And most of the time, all the medium screen, they are from that 420 all the way to 620 like that. So all the medium one, they are like 400 to that the 620. Then from 620 on to that 768, that's where you see all the 7 inches smartphone and so forth like that. But tablet started from 768 like that. Then anything below that, we assume that it is mobile screen. Again too, tablet stop at 1003. Anything above that, we assume that it is laptop or a big screen like that. You can see here, so 1024 is laptop like that. But that doesn't mean that is the only value that we have. So you are going to be seeing 1440. This is a large laptop. This screen right now is bigger than my screen. And as you can see, that's why it's telling me that it's only showing 65% of it, because this screen right now that I'm using is bigger than the current laptop that I'm using to present right now. But it's emulating it by showing it to you how it's going to look like, but it's only showing you 75% of it, because there is no way this my screen, which is 1300, will now be emulating 1440. It's not possible. But other laptop that I have there, that one is 1920. So which is really big? So that one is this 1920. As you can see, that one is really big in screen, but it's still laptop. But this one is considered as a large laptop, but it's still laptop. But you need to make sure that your design is looking nice on all these screen sizes. And the way they are going to be giving you design, if you are lucky, you are going to see design for tablet, but most of the time the design you are going to be giving is the mobile and the desktop. So it's that less for you to make sure that that design too is looking nice on tablet. Most of the time the design you have for the desktop will work on tablet, but sometimes you need to tweak some stuff there like that. And how do you make all this thing possible? How do you do all this thing that I'm talking about? How do you change your design based on the screen that the user is using? That's where the media query comes in, where we can start using our main width or max width to constrain where this particular style is going to be applied there like that. And I told you last time that everything we have been doing since, we are following what is called mobile responsive first. So we are following what is known as mobile responsive first, which means whatever design we are working on, we are assuming that we are working on the mobile first. Like means design will look nice on mobile. Then after we are done with the mobile, then we now scale it up to look nice on the desktop. That's what we call mobile design first. You are designing for mobile first. Then when you are done with the mobile, then you now adjust your design so that it's going to work for desktop too. Or you can start with desktop first, which means you'll be starting with this design. Then when you're not done with the design, then you now scale it down so that it will look like what we have here. That's what we call the desktop design first. So, but you doing desktop first is always tedious compare you doing mobile first and you scale it up, because a lot of things that you want to change from mobile to desktop is just little changes. But if you are starting with desktop and you want to go down to mobile, you are going to do a lot of changes, because you need to hide some stuff or move them to where they are supposed to be, and you are going to be typing a lot of CSS property to make this thing happen. But from mobile to desktop, it's just little property that you are going to be changing, and you see that things will start coming in shape there like that. But how do you do this thing? Before you start jumping into the code, you need to look at what are the things you want to change. Because if you look at the design now, you can see the content here is at the top while the other content is down. But when they get to the desktop, they are now side by side. And if you remember the way we arrange this thing from the HTML, they are in their parent. As you can see, we have the div for the content and we have the div for the image, and they are inside this main. And if you check the code for the main like that, you see that we are placing the content on top of each other by using this flex direction of column. And what do we want to do on desktop? What we just need to do on desktop is to change the direction from column and we change it to row. But how is this thing going to know that, oh, you're on desktop, oh, I need to change the design from mobile to desktop? That's where the media query now comes in, because that's what we are going to be using to condition our style. Just like what I did here, it will only change this background of body to red when the height is minimum of this 500 pixels. But instead of us using the height, what we are going to be focusing on is the width, because it's not, height is not the major thing. What you use to determine the screen is the width of it like that, not the height. So I'm going to switch it to the width, and from there now, once I go back to the screen, as you can see, it's showing red as background. But once I go less than 500 like that, can you see it's not showing a red again? It's not doing something else. And that's what we need to do for this element that we have at the top here. So this element that we target here, so instead of us using this direction of column, we are going to be changing the direction to row when the screen is from tablet and above. Once we enter tablet and above, then we change the direction to row. And how do we do that? I just mentioned all the screen sizes that we have now. So when you want to target tablet and above, you know that we need to target 768 pixels like this, because all the tablets started from this screen all the way to the above. And as you can see, I said all the way to the above because I want this thing to happen to on desktop, because this design will look the same both on desktop and on tablet. But at some time the design will be different. So if the design is different, what you have to do is to target another media query that is going to be, focusing on desktop. So here now, this one will target when you are at 768 and above, and again to here, this one will target when you are 1024 and above. So here now I'm going to use green. So by default, our body is going to be having this color that we set at the top. But once it enter tablet, you see that it will turn to red, like that. Again too, once it enter a laptop, you see that it will change to green like that. But this screen is really small. But let me reduce this in. You see that the background now is green. Why? Because of the media query I have here. So when the screen hits this 768, it will change it to red. But it will get to a point when your screen now enter 1024, it will abandon this one too, and it will be using this one. But please, when you apply your media query, the one that's supposed to win should always come last. Because if this one is at the top, this one will always win, because that's what it will be saying last. So if this one is at the top like this, because they are the same rules, they have the same precedence, so this one will always win no matter the screen. Even though the screen is bigger like that, it will not use it. It will be using the other one. As you can see now, it's using red. Even though I'm on laptop and I mentioned that the laptop should be using green, but it's not using it. Why? Because it's seeing this one last. So that's why you always see that all our mobile code will be at the top. Then for the tablet, we follow. If there is a last screen that we need to work for, then that one will follow, and so forth like that. That's how you arrange it. The one that should win last should always be at the end. So since I want my tablet to always win when it enters this screen, then it has to be the last one that will be here. So the same thing here too. Since I want to apply this my tablet, then all the mobile design will be at the top, then follow by the media query to toggle the style for the tablet, and the same thing too when you enter the desktop. So when you're on mobile screen, as long your screen is between this, and you've not gotten to 1024, it will be using this red. But once it enter 1024, it will see what is here, and once you see what is here, then it will change the background to green that we have here. And this is what we are going to be doing a lot later on when we're working on design, to change how this thing is going to look like based on different screen that we want. And I told you we have some of this common screen like that, where we have the mobile, which is 0 to 767 pixels like this, which is what we are assuming already at the top here. So everything we are applying here, we are assuming that they are coming from mobile by default. But later on, we are now changing something here because we want to rearrange some elements once we enter a particular screen. And that screen is a tablet. And for tablets like that, they always start from this 768 pixels all the way to 1002 3 pixels like this. And again too, for laptop or desktop, starts from this 1024 pixels, then all the way to the top like that. So that's where it is, because you don't need to specify the end. It all depends on whatever the screen they were using. But to get to a point later on too, we need to be limiting the content, because we don't just want them to go anyhow like that. But you are going to see all those one once we get to the other design, which is something we are doing here already. As you can see, we limited the width like that, but we still need to reduce the width a little bit, because we don't just want this thing to keep expanding anyhow like that. And how do we put them side by side? So what we need to do now is to target our media, which is this small screen that I'm targeting already here. But it's not the body that I want to select right now. This one is just to showcase what is going on. So what we want to target is our main. And what do we want to do when we enter the tablet and above? Look at it here. We need to put the content side by side once again. And how do you put them side by side? You know that this one is in a container. This one too is part of the element that is inside that main. And how do you put them side by side? We just need to change our flex direction. You know, when you display flex, it will put them side by side. But we are assuming at the top here that they are going to be on top of each other. So that's the reason why we change the direction to column. And since it's going to be like that, so here we need to return it back to row, so that it can place the content side by side. And once I save it now and go back to the screen, you see that it's now placing them side by side. But it will only do this when we are on desktop. So if I switch it back to mobile, you see that it will not see that style. So if I go back to mobile, as you can see, it will be on top of each other, but once you enter tablet and above, it will always put them side by side, because that's what we did here. Once we enter this screen and above, because that's what we said, mean. When you say max, it means this one downward. When you say mean, it means this value upward. So once we enter this screen and above, just change the direction to row, because by default, we put it as column there like that. But once we enter this big screen, which is tablet and above, then we are putting them side by side. And again too, as you can see, the image is not perfect, so we need to change some design too, because this image, if you remember, we actually gave it a height there. So if I go back to the top, as you can see, image container, we give it height of 280. That's why it's stopping here. But instead of it to stop here, we need to leave it to cover up the entire height. And how can we do that? So we can select this one too, go into that place where we have this our media query. So we just need to change the style for this one too. So instead of the height to be that 280, we just need to specify that the height of the box is going to be 100% like this. And as you can see, it's not showing at all like that. So why is it not showing? Because this thing did not know about what is going on with the box. So if I enter this thing now, put it there, so and go back to this container, as you can see, the box is having height of 0 like that. And why is it having 0 in that way? Is because its parent did not really have any weight attached to it. So this one, when you just say 100%, it doesn't know what to do with it like that. So what we can do here is to force a height on the stuff like that. Or another way of specifying the stuff is to make sure that one of the container here, or one of the items that is inside it, have a weight, and that weight is what that element is going to depend on like that. For example, here what we can just say that this thing is going to be 400 pixels like this, and once I save, and as you can see now, it's going to bring out the content like this. But there's a problem with this which can cause problem later on, but for now I'm going to leave it like that because I don't want to dive deeper into this thing. We are just starting, so we are going to be taking it one by one like that. But as you can see, the content are now being placed side by side instead of them placed on top of each other. So once you go to small screen, it will be using that our style we applied before. But once you see that we enter this screen and above, it will start using the stuff you have there. You can see everything I'm doing at the top here, all the selector that I'm using at the top, you see the same thing I'm using down here. The only thing we are doing is to change some of the property. And as you can see, the property we are changing is not much. That's the advantage of moving from mobile to desktop. When you are moving from mobile to desktop, you only change small thing there, not that big stuff. So the property will be changing. You can see on the main, what we have there before is this line, this entire line. But the only thing we are just changing is this line, because most of the other property that we are using is still the same thing that is going to be there like that. And the width that we are using right now is not really using it. Why? Is because of the flex property that I've talked about. But for now, I will skip that. As you can see, it's not using 95%. It's using, like, you can see that it's not even up to where it's supposed to be. This one and this one supposed to be half. But right now, it's not half. And again, to this image, is not centered properly. So you can change all this value one by one under this media query down here like that. So I'm going to collapse all this one so that I don't need to be moving up and down much like that. So all this property is just part of them that we're going to change, which is this container here. We need to make sure that this container and this container here, they are taking half, not like the way I specify it here like that. And how can we make sure that this thing is taking half there? So, you know, when you display as flex there like that, you can actually talk to all this thing that you want them to take half, or you want one of them to take 3 over 1 of the other one, and so forth like that. And how do you do that? We've talked about all this in under the display property when we are talking about display, which is the flex at that time. So here now, what we can do is to give this one flex 1, and this one too, we can give it flex 1. So what this one means is that you take 1 over 2, u2 is going to be 1 over 2. I see 1 over 2, this is 1 here, this is 1. 1 plus 1, that's 2. So that means this one will take 1 over 2, and this one will take 1 over 2. But here now, if I put 2 here, what this one means is that 2 plus 1, that's 3. So this one will take 1 over 3, this one will take 2 over 3 of whatever the width. So whatever the width of this box, which is that main, this second one will take 3, it take 2 over 3, while this one will take 1 over 2, which means our content, can you see now, the content will only be times 2 of whatever we have on the left side. Or we can switch it here, that this one will be 2 and this one will be 1. So what you are saying is that the image container will now be 2 times whatever you have on the right there. But instead of it to be like this, we want them to be half. So which means this one will take 1, this one will take 1, which is like 50-50%. And once it's saved now, as you can see, the two of them are going to be half of the container that we have there like that. Almost all the other content, they are simple stuff. You just need to change the text property and they are going to come in there like that. But let me go back. Look at this image too. This is not the image we're supposed to use. Don't forget, in our design, we have 2 images. There is one for desktop and there is one for mobile. So the one we actually use is the one for mobile. So if you scroll up back into that image container, you see that the image that we are using, so let me put this in so that we can see it. So word wrap, as you can see, the one we are using is mobile. So how do we switch it to the one that is meant for desktop? Can you see the way that one is looking like? This is the one for desktop, and they gave us the 2 images. So the one we are using is mobile, and that's why it's looking like this. So we need to switch it to the one that is meant for desktop. So just like the way you are changing other property down here, that's the same way too you can change that image. So we just need to specify the background image, so and we replace it with the one that we need. So once it enter this screen, it will switch to the one that we mentioned here instead of using. So this is what we are using before, this is what we want to use. And once I save it now, you see that it's going to switch the image. So when we are on 768 and above, it will be using the image that we have here, because that is what we mentioned. Once we enter this media, and when the width is 768 and above, this image container, we are changing this background image property, the one that is there before. This is what is there before. This is what we are using. But once we enter a base screen, it knows that it is supposed to switch this one to the down one that we have here. So if I'm mobile, it will be using that mobile one. But once I go to a bigger screen, it will be seeing the one for the desktop. As you can see, it will be loading the one for the desktop. But once you go to a small screen, can you see, it will be loading the one for the mobile like that. And this is how you can do things to change your design based on the screen that the user is working on. And this thing is really possible because of this property that we have here. If this line is not there, it will never work. The reason why this thing is working is because of this line that we have here. The reason why it's working is because of this line 5 here, which is always being generated for you automatically when you use your page generator in your HTML file. Once you use your page generator, it's going to put this content. As you can see, it will make sure that the width of our page is always following the device width. So if you are using it on iPhone, it will make sure that it follows the width that you have there. If you are using it on Android phone or any other phone or any gadget, it will make sure that the width of the box or the width of the viewport, which is that white area, is fitting to the device that you are using to view it. And that's the reason why this thing can know that, oh, the screen has changed. Let me to check whether this thing is there or not. If I disable this line, there is no way this thing will be able to know that things have changed. And as you can see now, things are not working the way it's supposed to work again, because it's not that easy to detect the screen. As you can see that it's not working again. Even though I'm on small screen, can you see it's still using desktop design? So it will not be seeing it again because it doesn't know whether the screen is okay or not, or the screen or this viewport here is not based on your screen that you have, which is this box. So in order for this thing to know that, oh, this is the screen, oh, and this thing has changed, or it's supposed to align based on the viewport that you are using to view this thing, this line must be there. If it's not there, there's no way the browser will be able to figure out that your viewport or your screen has changed like that. And once I bring this thing back, as you can see, it knows that we are on this 320. Since it knows that we're on 320, it will apply the style because it will not see this one. So since the stuff is 320, there is no way it's going to see this 768 because there's no way 768 will now be, or that 320 will be in the range of this 768 and above. It is below. So since it's below, it will not apply anything here. Once you see that it can find this value on the screen there, then it will come here and apply what we have there. But since you already do some stuff at the top, it will join every of the property you have there with the one you are not changing at the top here. Since we did not change anything like background repeat, background size, and the weight, it will be using all these values down here. But any one of them that you modify, it will come here and replace them with the new value. So here we are using 200 when it is on small screen. But since we've changed it here now to 400 pixels, you see that it will abandon that 200, 280. As you can see that it's using 280 right now. But once I switch to a bigger screen, you see that it has abandoned that value. Can you see now? It's drawing the line on top of it. So it's telling you it's no more using this value. It's now using the one that is coming from the media because that media is down. So it's going to see it. And once you see it, then to apply it. And since the property are the same thing, the last one we always win. So since the 200 is at the top and the 400 is down, then it will apply the 400. The same thing here too for the background image. Before, this is what it's using for mobile. But now as you can see, it's drawing line on top of it, which means that it's no more using this one. It's now using the one that is coming from our media query because it can see that media. The only time you need to see this media is when the screen is less, is when the screen is equal or greater than this 768 because I'm using main width. But when you use max width, it means that value downward. When you use min width, that value upward. And if you want, you can still constrain it, which we are going to be doing for some other design later on. But for now, we only need this simple media query like that. And if you look at it too, you see that this thing is getting wider anyhow. So we need to talk to this our container, which is this main here, like that. If you look at it on small screen, we know that we don't really have much. As you can see, the width is 95%. But this thing is really much when we get to a bigger screen. 95% is really much. If you look at the original design, you see that one stops at a definite width. So here now, what we can just do, when we get to this 768, we can actually give it the max width. On small screen, just keep expanding anywhere because we know that we don't really have more screen on the small phone. But once we get to tablet and above, we know that we now have more screen. So we don't want this thing to go more than a particular value, which I'm going to use is 420. I don't know, but I'm going to use 420 and check it out. If it's not okay, we change it. But if it's okay, we are going to leave it. And I can see that it's not okay at all because that value is too small. So let me use 520 like this. And as you can see, I think this one is making sense. But that is a, can you see now? This is what I talked about that time, that there's going to be a problem because we limited the weight of this box like that to 400. And right now, the box is actually more than that. And what can we do to make sure that this thing is not like this? What we can do is to give it that the parent a definite height. I will make sure that this one will now cover up that box there like that. But I think this value is still small. But let me enter the dev mode like that. So as you can see on tablet, it looks nice. But once you start entering a large phone, it's kind of at the same thing. But I think it's okay like this. So what we just need to do is to increase this one, maybe like this. Let me just use 600 like that because the thing will not go outside. But there's going to be a problem because this thing is not going to expand anyhow. And that's the reason why I said we need to give the parent the height. Then we make sure that this one is 100% like that. And how do we do it? So instead of us giving the height to this box, what we need to do is to give this one 100. Then the main itself is what we now give the height like that. So yeah, we just need to do the height of this box because we don't want it to go more than a particular height. So I'm going to give it this 500 like that. And as you can see, this box will always cover up where its parent stops. So yeah, if I mention 400, that image too, it will reduce, but it's going to create a problem for the content we have on this side like that. Or yeah, we can just use 100% like that, but it's going to create a problem for the content here too. And that's the reason why I'm using this definite value for now. When we get to a better design later on, we're not going to be assigning a value like this, because if you assign a value like this and you go to a screen that doesn't have up to that height, for example, now if I reduce the height of this box, you see that you have to be scrolling up and down before you can see the entire stuff. But I don't want it to be like this. I want this thing to be height of its parent like that. So whatever the parent stop, that's where it's going to stop too. But for now, this is what I'm going to use like that, which is really big too. So I'm going to use 480 for now, and since it's okay like this. And another thing we can do is to move all this content to the center, because the space at the top is not the same thing as what we have down here. So what we can do is to talk to this container, and we just need to justify content. Why do we need to justify, not align? Is because we place them on top of each other. Since we place them on top of each other, justify is now talking about vertical, and align is talking about horizontal. You know, when it is a row, justify is horizontal and align is vertical. But once its stuff is in column, then justify is vertical while the align is horizontal. And if you want to move it to center, we just need to justify it to center, so that whatever space that is left in the parent, like this one that is down here, it will distribute it between the top and the bottom. Not that we have more space here and there is no space at the top like that. So what we just need to do here is to take them to center like that, and once it's saved, as you can see now, it will distribute that space between them. So the space down here and the top is going to make sure that we have equal space like that. But normally, if I want to do this thing, I'm not going to be giving a definite height for this box, but I don't want to go deeper into flex property. For now, we just assume that the content will not be more than this, but later on the content might actually be more than this. And once the content is more than this and this will go outside, then it will hide it, because we've already put it on the container that this thing is going, overflow is going to be hidden, so that all the content cannot go outside. But later on, we're going to make sure that it's not like this for other design like that. So here now we have a design on desktop. No matter the screen you have, it will never go past this screen. But once you enter a small screen, you see that it will place them on top of each other. But the way I'm doing right now is bad. You don't use the zoom, because the thing will not give, as you can see now, this is mobile, but it's not really in the correct zoom. So that's the reason why we are going to be using dev tools here. So once you enter your developer mode, you can toggle the emulator here. So once you click on this emulator, it's going to bring out this different common screen that you can use, and you can switch between each one of them. Or if you want to see how it's going to look like on a particular phone, then you can come here and you quickly preview it. So this is how it's going to look like on iPhone SE. This is how it's going to look like on iPhone XR. This is how it's going to look like on 12 Pro. This is how it's going to look like on 14 Pro. And again too, this is how it's going to look like on iPad like that. And again too, as you can see here, you can switch to different orientation. So this is when you're in landscape mode for that iPad Air, and this is where you're in the portrait mode of the iPad Air. The same thing for the phone too. So this iPhone XR portrait, so you can switch. This is how it's going to look like once you put your phone in auto rotate and you just rotate it to the landscape. So this is how you are going to see it on the iPhone XR. As you can see that I switch to desktop mode, because the width now is now 890. Since the width is 890, you know it's now bigger than the value that we specify here. Because the iPhone now, this iPhone, it will switch the width to the height and the height to the width. That's what it's just doing. That's just your landscape like that. The same thing here too for the Pixel 7. This eye is going to look like that. And if I switch that one too, it will look like if it is desktop, because it has switched the width to the height and the height to the width like that. So in the next class now, we are going to be working on another design that uses everything that I talked about. Today it's just like introduction to media query, and that's the reason why I don't want to go deeper into it. But in the next class we are going to be working on a design that actually enter this in deeply there like that. So we are going to be working on this site. So this is a full-blown site that we're going to be working on as from the next class there. So this is a full-blown site that we're going to be working on. This is a landing page. So a landing page is like a site or a page where you put what your business is all about. Maybe your portfolio is where you describe what you are doing, what are your services. Okay, my name is Usosis. I'm a front-end developer. These are my services. I can help you to do this. These are the people that I've worked on before, and so forth like that. That's what we call the portfolio there, like that. But it's still part of the landing page. And for this site, this is their portfolio, maybe like a Web3. So like this site now is a Web3 stuff, and this is what they are posting now. Okay, this is what we do, and these are the news, and so forth like that. So we are going to be working on this landing page, and as you can see here, this is the desktop design, but it's quite different from what is there on mobile. As you can see, it's clear that some element now they are not showing here. When you're on desktop, all these items at the top they are showing, but once you enter mobile, as you can see, it's no more showing, and this one is showing here. Is when you now click on this that is going to now bring them out. But this one here now requires JavaScript, which we are not going to be touched. We only touch the HTML and the CSS part. Once you get the JavaScript, you are going to know how to do this one later on. But for the next class, we're always going to focus on the mobile and the desktop design. So we need to make sure that our design looks like this on mobile, and when they are checking it on the last screen, this is how it's going to look like. And what are we going to be using to do this? We are still going to be using our media query there. And again, for this one, the design is going to be complex because this thing is not going to be looking like this on tablet, because there is no way we can put this two side by side, this on tablet. So we are going to see what we need to do when we're on tablet, what we need to do when you're on the desktop later on there, like that, which is going to be the next class. So we're going to start with the layout of the content, look at the desktop, what we need to put together in order for us to transform this layout we have right now into what we now have here. As you can see, this one is complex like that. There's a lot of things that is going on here, and the way you are going to handle them is still like the way we handle the one we just did now. So you have to look at your element and look at the way you can represent them. So here now, this is a body, and inside the body you see that there are different sections. We have the header section, so you have the this hero section, and you have another section here. And inside this section, as you can see, this is one container on its own, this is another container on its own, and this is another container on its own, which this one is just a duplicate of this order. So inside this place, this is another container here, like that, and this is another container here like this. So inside this container for this side, as you can see, you have the content at the top. So you have the content at the top here. So let me select this another color. So this is another thing here, and from there, this is content, and again this is another container. And that's what we'll be doing. Again here, this is the heading for this part, but apart from that, you have container here. This is another container because it's holding multiple stuff there, and this is another container here. Inside this place too, you have the image, then beside the image you have the container that is holding the text, and you need to arrange all this thing like this so that when you're applying your CSS, everything are going to be placed in order like that. And the way we did it right now, we are just going to focus on the mobile first, then later on, based on our grid or based on the flex property, we are going to be placing the one that needs to go side by side on desktop and the one that needs to be on top of each other. As you can see, all of them, they are just stacked on top of each other. But once you enter desktop, some of them have to be side by side, so which is where the flex comes in. And that's the reason why the flex property is very important, because you always use it a lot, because almost all the content or almost all the page you are going to see, a lot of them follow the flex layout, but there are some of them that did not follow that layout, and that's where this one will come in later on. This thing here, we are going to be designing this one later on, because if you look at it now, it's now on top of everything. So how do we do something like this? You cannot use flex for this one. You have to use positioning, so that you can place one content on top of other like that. Because when you have something that is overlapping each other, you have to use positioning, which is something I have not talked about before. But when we want to do this one, I'm going to be talking about positioning, and that's what we're going to use for this. There will be no JavaScript there, because this one now you have to click on it so that it will close, just like this site here. So if I go to this site here, you see that when your mobile screen, the way it come outside is different from the desktop, like that, which is the same thing we are going to be doing in the next slide, but there is no JavaScript to toggle the stuff. But to get to a point that we're going to be needing that, so we move into JavaScript, and we're going to talk about how you, or what is JavaScript, what are the stuff you need to know, then how can you now connect it to your page, and so forth like that. So look at this site now. As you can see, all this content at the top, they are showing right now. Again, to look at the content, they are placed side by side, image on the right, then the text on the left. But now if I switch to mobile by entering the dev mode, you see that they are now being placed on top of each other. So they are not side by side again, because there is no space. This thing is not displaying correctly. Let me reset. Let me close. It's not showing it correctly. So let me enter it again. Yeah, so this is how it's supposed to come outside, like that. So you can see on Pixel 7, if I change it to 12 Pro Max like that, you can see the way it's coming out. So the content are now placed on top of each other. But once you switch to a bigger screen, can you see now, they are now side by side. So almost all the sites follow the same pattern. The difference there is just the color or the text or the content you are putting there. That's what will be different, or the placement. If you look at this one now, the text is on the right, the image is on the left. But here now, the text is down on the left, the image is on the right. But the major reason why I'm here is because of this thing. So if I switch to mobile, as you can see, the same thing that we're going to be doing in the next class is what is being used here, because that's the reason why we want to do it, so that you'll be able to apply it anywhere you need it later on. So the same thing that you have there is just that the icon are different, like, but it's still the same functionality. But here now, when we are going to be doing it, it's not going to be function like this one. If I click on it right now, can you see something come outside? And if I click on it again, it goes back. And that's what this thing is there for. This side, this one here. So this is their own design. You see that their own is not covering the entire stuff. It's just part of it. So how do you now move the stuff on top of them? So how do you move it on top? That's where the positioning property will be coming on later on there, like that. It's the same thing here too. As you can see, look at this content. It's placed on top of the other one. So if I click on this, it's closed. If I click on it, it brings it out. So how can we do something like this? That's what JavaScript is going to be there, because without JavaScript, you cannot do something like this. When you click, you are interacting with the element, and as you can see, some stuff are changing based on what you click on the page. And that's the same thing you always see in almost sites that you are going to see online. Almost all the sites you are going to see online, that's a pattern that everybody follows. The difference is just the design or the color or the arrangement that they are using like that. So like this one too here now, if I enter the dev mode, if they have it, you are going to see that some stuff are going to be hidden like that. Is when you now click on this thing that they will come outside. Can you see some stuff are no more showing? Can you see now? It's now being placed down here. When you're on big screen, it's by the side. But when you're on small screen, it is under. So it's still the same thing they're using here. They are using media query to switch where you want to place your content based on whether there is space or no space. So on tablet, as you can see, it is side, and the same thing too, that's what is there on desktop. So most of the time, the design you have will work for tablet and laptop, but at some time, it doesn't work like that, because tablet too is still not having enough width to accommodate the content. As you can see here, like that. Can you see that these two, they are placed on top of each other? But when you close it and on laptop, can you see they are side by side? So there's something too that might not really work when you're on tablet. You still need to refine your media query so that you work on something on laptop only and not mobile or not tablet. And that's what I have done here. So once we enter laptop, then start doing all this one. But from tablet upward, start doing all this. But when I get to laptop too, this is what I want to do some changes to the element. And this is where I'll be stopping. And before next class, I want you to work on this design that I just worked on today. There, make sure that everything is perfect. And in the next class, we are going to be jumping into this main or this full-blown site here. So this is a full-blown site that we can deploy. This one I wanted to deploy before, but I don't need to deploy because it's kind of as simple and it's not that not something shiny that you can show to people that it will be impressive like that. So once you finish this one, we are going to deploy it. Normally I said we're going to deploy this one before, but we don't need to because it's just a simple stuff. But I want to wait for this one before we do that deployment stuff. So that is going to be all for today. Let me stop recording.